Good evening. Good evening, Ro.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Pullen. I'm the superintendent of schools here at North Rose-Wolcott. This evening, we're going to be going over the North Rose-Wolcott Elementary reentry plan. In a short while, I'll turn it over to Megan Pagliatti, the assistant superintendent for instruction. She will be reviewing some of the particulars that pertain to district-wide activities. And then we're going to turn it over to Mrs. Christy Graves to talk to you specifically about the elementary reentry plan. I want to thank you for your participation this evening. I want to thank you for your patience, and I want to thank you for your input. You know, over the past month, we've received about 1,000 emails, a bunch of phone calls, and have had some face-to-face conversations with people who are wondering about what our plan looks like for your students this fall. What we know with certainty is the school's going to open on September 8th. We know with certainty it's going to be like any other opening we've had previously. And what we know is that we're going to do our best to ensure that your children's safety is our first and foremost concern. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Megan. The formal presentation is going to last for about 20 to 25 minutes. And then we'll do a question and answer session. We should be out of here at about 6:45. And if there isn't an answer to the questions that you have in particular, or something that you want to ask after hearing tonight's presentation, we just encourage you to call the elementary office tomorrow and speak with one of the administrators, possibly one of the counselors, to get that answer. Mrs. Pagliatti?
Thank you. So for my portion, I'm going to go over some district level information, and then I'll turn it over to Mrs. Graves to talk about specifics to the elementary school. After that, you'll be able to ask any questions you have in the chat box, and we'll get to as many questions as you have and as we have time for. We are going to be putting out a frequently asked questions document that hopefully includes a lot of different questions that people have been asking. So that's something you can refer to, and that'll be on the website early next week. So first we're going to talk about district health and safety. The first thing that I want to talk about is masks. All staff and students will be required to wear masks throughout the day. When students are moving around in their classroom, or if they are walking through the hallway, they'll need to have their masks on. However, when they're seated at their desk and they are 6 feet away from others, they'll be able to have them off. As far as cleaning, we are going to be having teachers do some cleaning of the classrooms throughout the day on the high point areas where students touch a lot. We also are going to be having them clean surfaces before and after students eat, because they will be eating in the classrooms. We're closed on Wednesdays for in-person instruction so that we can do a deep clean. And then we'll also be doing our regular cleaning on the night shifts. So as far as a daily screening, we would expect that before you send your child to school that you have taken their temperature and that you've monitored them for signs and symptoms of COVID. If they have any of the signs and symptoms, or they have a temperature over 100, we would ask that you keep them home. We do have a daily screening that all staff members and visitors would have to complete before coming to the building. And that's going to be on our website, and staff will access that. They'll answer the same sort of questions that you may have seen at other places, such as, do you have a fever over 100, and asking about different signs and symptoms. Just as with students, we would ask staff to stay home if they do have those signs and symptoms. If there are symptomatic individuals that come down with symptoms during the day, we would have them be moved to a separate location within the building that is supervised until they can be picked up by a parent. And you can look at the COVID-19 symptom flow chart that we have on here. It is hard to see, it's a little bit blurry on this presentation, but it is on the website. And it gives you really great information as to when a COVID test might be needed, when a child might be able to have to stay out of school for a while, and the doctor's role in determining that. One important thing to know as well is that our air filtration systems are up to date with the filters that are required for the systems that we have. And we are recommending that windows and doors be kept open in order to increase the airflow in classrooms. As far as district transportation, we anticipate having about 22 students per bus. That's one student per seat, except there could be more if there are peers that are not peers, but siblings that live together that could ride together in a seat. Everybody must wear masks on the bus, and if a student comes to the bus without a mask, the bus drivers will have an extra one for them to have. The bus drivers will be cleaning the buses in between every single route. And we did want to mention that we are hiring. So if you're interested in being a bus driver, we would love to welcome you to the team. As far as nutrition, we do still qualify to give breakfast and lunch to all. So looking at how that would look with some students being home and some students being here, we will be delivering meals for students who are fully virtual on Wednesdays.
Hey, I'm on a Zoom call for the school.
And you would receive 5 days worth of meals on that Wednesday, and it would be delivered to your home. For students who are hybrid, they would take meals home for 3 days on their second day of in-person. So if they're here Monday and Tuesday, they'd leave Tuesday with 3 days worth of meals. Location of meals is that they will be eaten in the classroom. Breakfast will be waiting for students when they arrive, and lunch will be brought to their classrooms. And as I mentioned before, teachers will be cleaning the surfaces before and after students eat, and students will be required to wash their hands before and after eating. Even though we do qualify to give everyone breakfast and lunch for free, we do need you to fill out the free and reduced lunch form if that applies to your situation, because that helps us to be able to continue that funding. And as well, in the food service department, we're hiring there as well. So if you're interested, please let us know. For district technology, we have provided devices to all of our students. And if you have a student that's new to the district or a younger student who has never attended before, we will be letting you know when you can pick up devices for those students. We provided hotspots to all of our families. So if that's something you need, you can let us know. For our elementary students, we are going to be having them keep their devices at home. So once they've been issued to your student, they can stay at home because we're going to have extras in the classroom that they can use when they're there. That way they don't have to bring them back and forth. We do want to provide technology support for anybody who needs it. So you can reach out to our email or phone number for the tech department, and that's on our website. And we want to thank everyone who has answered our surveys. Anybody who has said that they need some support for their internet, you will be hearing from our technology department, if you haven't already, with how they can support you with that need. So our instructional options, we have been able to offer all virtual or hybrid. And so I'll first talk about the all virtual piece. So the all virtual piece will look like your child is home every day, and there will be a combination of in real-time lessons with a teacher, some video lessons that students may watch on their own. There'll be playlists where students can choose different learning activities and different assignments to complete, and then some independent work time where they might go on things like IXL or digital platforms, or even complete some paper-based work, being that that was a favorite option for many families. For hybrid students, the way we've divided that up is that students with a last name that starts with A through J will attend on Monday and Tuesday, and students whose last names start with towards the end of the alphabet, they'll come on Thursdays and Fridays. Everyone will be home Wednesdays. Now, if you do have family members that have different last names in different sections of the alphabet, we will be moving students so that all of your children can attend on the same day. We also may need to make some adjustments for when students attend based on scheduling needs. And if that pertains to your student, we'll reach out and let you know if a change needs to be made. If you have a change in preference as far as hybrid or virtual, we are able to have you change that. So if you start out that your child's virtual and you really feel like you want them to try coming to school, just let your building know, and we'll basically treat that as a transfer process. It might take a couple days for us to figure out room, to make sure there's enough room in classes and get things situated, but we will try to accommodate families as they need to switch on and off. So for student movement, students at the elementary school will really stay in their classrooms for the majority of the day. They're not going to be leaving to go, like I said, to lunch or breakfast. However, they might be moving throughout the building to get outside for different parts of their day. And as far as teacher assignments, we're still working on the rosters. We're hopeful to have teacher assignments and student lists and schedules ready by the end of next week. So now I'm going to pass it over to Mrs. Graves. She's our assistant principal at the elementary school. And right now she's also the acting principal at the elementary school. And she's going to go into some of the more specifics about the building.
Good evening, everyone. So I just wanted to take a minute and say that as I've been working on these plans for the last few weeks, I understand completely what you're feeling as we look to reopening the school. I have a elementary aged daughter myself, and have had to really kind of ask myself a lot of these same questions. So I just wanted to put out there that although some of the things in our school will look a little different this year, there will be some things that will be the same, including how much we love your children and how happy we will be to see them when they come back into the building. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is arrival. So if you are a parent that will not be taking part in busing and will be dropping off your student, you can see that we are going to have 2 drop-off locations. The front of the school, there are about 6 parking spots that cars can pull up. School will start at 9 o'clock in the morning, so around 9 o'clock, you may pull up to the front of the school. There will be staff members there to direct students into the building at that time. There will also be the option to use the northwest parking lot. You may pull into that parking lot, and again, there's a sidewalk there that students can walk up, and there will be staff members there to make sure the students get into the right door into the building. If your child is riding the bus, it will be very similar to like always, except we will have the buses let students off 1 bus at a time to kind of have a staggered entry into the building. And then again, there will be staff members in the hallways guiding students to their classrooms. So dismissal definitely will look a little different. So if you are picking up your child, that will happen after the buses leave. So students that are getting picked up will be brought to the gym, and then the buses will be loaded. And at 3 o'clock when the buses leave, past parents will be able to pull right into the bus loop. A staff member will come up to your vehicle, and then the students will be brought out to the parents. So a few different tidbits that I just wanted to touch on. Hallway transitions, as Megan had said, are going to be very limited. When students are in the hallway, they will be expected to wear a mask. We will make those transitions and those hallway travel supervised by adults as much as possible. In a situation where students are not feeling well, we're going to ask the students and communicate to them to tell their teachers. If we do feel that the student is showing some symptoms that we're concerned about, we will have the nurse or an administrator come and escort the student down to our supervised waiting room area, which is going to be in the locker rooms, the girls or the boys' locker room. And an administrator will stay there with the child until the parent comes to pick them up. Unfortunately, we will be limiting visitors this year. I know we have a lot of people who come in and volunteer their time, and we covet that and appreciate that so much. At this time, we will have to limit that, but we're hoping that that will change in the near future. We have had some parents talk about or ask questions about meet the teacher or orientation type activities that we have done in the past in a traditional back to school. So we are looking at some virtual options just to be able to have parents show students virtually around the school, help them remember what they left in the spring. But we also know there are some students that are new to our building, our UPK students or some kindergarten students or any transfer students. So we are kind of working together and thinking about some ways that we can have those students come into the building and just kind of have a small tour so that they can see it for themselves. So materials and supplies will still be provided to all students, including hybrid students and virtual students. For students that are in school, where traditionally they may have shared materials and supplies in the classroom, this year we will make sure students have individualized bins and toolkits, so their materials are their materials. For students that are at home, we will find ways to either deliver those materials or have parent pickup of those materials so that they can have those materials at home as well. Desks and tables will continue to be used in the classroom. Teachers have been informed on how to appropriately socially distance the tables and the chairs, or the tables and the desks, so that students are 6 feet away. And the reasoning behind this is the hope that when students are at their individual workstation areas, they will be able to take off their masks when they are in their classrooms and at appropriate distances. Megan had talked a little bit about Chromebooks. Just a reminder that they will not have to travel back and forth with their Chromebooks. They will have their Chromebook that can stay at home, and they will also have a Chromebook that they can use at school. Flexible seating is a big part of the elementary school. It will continue to be expected or allowed in a socially distant manner. Some daily activities that I wanted you to be aware of. So attendance is going to be taken whether the student is in person or virtual. So more information will be coming out about how we will take attendance when students are home. Mask wearing, obviously, this is going to be something that we're going to work with students on. We know that young students, it's new to them. So, we're really trying to find opportunities where the social distancing will allow them to take the masks off. But teachers will be working with students on the reasons why we need to wear masks and why that seems different from before. We're also going to encourage teachers to increase hand washing times throughout the day, not maybe just before they eat, but before they're working with their tool bins or before they're reading, just to increase those opportunities. And social distancing, obviously just working with the students for them to understand and use kid-friendly terms like 2 arms length away so that they know what that means. Specials will continue. We're really excited that students will continue to have specials. It will be push-in this year, so art, music, STEAM, and PE will happen within their classrooms. Also, recess will be outside when possible. Students will be able to go outside with their teachers, obviously until the weather turns. But then also when the weather does not allow them to go outside, we will have indoor play bins, again, on an individual basis that students can play with within their classrooms. Teachers will continue to use movement breaks as a way just to give students the chance to move around their classroom and to have a break from learning. And just like always, there will be a strong focus on academics and social emotional learning during this time. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the 2 different options. So if your student is a hybrid student, you would be able to expect that those days that they are in school, that they will have lessons with a strong focus on ELA, math, and social studies. There will be reinforcement learning activities for students to do when they're at home using their Chromebook and Google Classroom. Each student, when they go home for their at-home days, will come home with a learning toolkit kit bag, which will have all the work that is expected of them on those at-home days. And a checklist will also be in there, so it should be very simple for parents to see exactly what needs to be completed. You can also expect a communication point from your child's teacher, and that can come in a variety of different ways. It could be a class dojo message, it could be an email, it could be a Zoom with your student, or it could be a phone call. And lastly, for those families that are picking the 100% remote option, your virtual schedule could look something like this. Obviously, you're going to have a lot more choice about what makes sense for your student and what works for your family. But you can expect that your student will have a virtual learning teacher and a class full of other remote learners. Each day at some part of the day, the class teacher and the class will have a daily virtual circle time where the students meet in live time, and that will using Zoom, and that will be set up by the teacher. There will also be a variety of on your own time lessons using the platform Google Classroom, and that could be videos or playlists or other paper pencil activities assigned by the virtual teacher. Each student in the virtual setting will also have a scheduled weekly reading group with either their virtual teacher or a reading teacher. The teacher will also set up office hours and will communicate that with you as a way of getting more support for your student. So if your student is having a difficult time on a lesson or a specific concept, you can reach out to that teacher during their office hours for extra support. And there will also be a system communicated to you for submitting work. And each teacher is going to set up their own system, but it's going to be very, very applicable to what you need as a family. So that is the end of my presentation. So if there are any questions, we would love to answer them for you.
The first question I have is, what day does school start for the elementary students?
So school's going to start for everyone on September 8th, which is a Tuesday.
If school starts at 9 o'clock, what time can students be dropped off in the mornings?
So obviously we're going to say as close to 9 o'clock as possible, only because we don't have a big holding area for students to come to. However, we know that that might not work for families. So if students if they needed to be dropped off a few minutes before 9, that would be fine. We do have a place for them to go.
Will students be assigned to one teacher if they're virtual, or will they have multiple teachers?
There will be one teacher in most cases. There are a couple cases where there might be 2 teachers depending on the teacher's other duties.
Can you clarify, elementary students will be going 2 days a week for hybrid, just like the middle and high school?
I can clarify if that's true. So
Yes.
I guess so we have 2 different hybrid models. We actually had enough space for UPK, kindergarten, and first graders to come all 4 days. And so they will be coming for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And then our second graders, third graders, and fourth graders will be on the 2-day-a-week schedule, just like the rest.
Can you elaborate on the pickup process? Will students need to be signed out?
So we're still working that out. We have a couple opportunities to think about streamlining that process, because we want to make sure that it is easy for families to pull in. So like I said, with the bus loop, students will pull up, the staff member will come to you. We're going to have a process where you have let the school know which people can already pick up your student, and if that is the person that's there, then the staff member will initial the paper and the student will come out.
Will the Chromebooks now allow students to access Zoom? Last year they couldn't access Zoom.
So yes, there is something that you have to do, that we've made videos and handouts that will allow you to follow the steps so that Zoom is available for the Chromebooks.
If a student needs to be quarantined but is feeling well enough, can they join the virtual instruction for those days?
Virtual instruction, yes.
Are students required to have their temperature taken before they get on the bus?
So I think Megan talked a little bit about that. So yes, the answer is yes, and it would happen at home. So it's not something we're going to be doing at school, but we are expecting that their temperatures will be taken at home before they get on the school bus.
Since school starts on the 8th, which is a Tuesday, how will it look for the students at the end of the alphabet that will be in school at the end of the week? Will they have virtual classes on Tuesday and Wednesday?
So yes, they will have on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yes, so if their in-person time is on Thursday and Friday every week, then they would have their virtual days, normally Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but since we start on a Tuesday, they would just have it on Tuesday and Wednesday of the first week.
If a child has cold-like symptoms, which are similar to COVID symptoms, will they be sent home and required to have a COVID test before coming back?
So we would have our nurse really assess students before making that decision to send them home, because they know best. But depending on if the nurse said that they did need to come home because they had signs and symptoms, we would have you work with your pediatrician to determine what's going on with your child. And then you can refer to that COVID chart that's on the website to kind of see the additional steps of whether they would need to get a test and how quickly they could come back if they either got a test and it was negative, or if you did not want to test them and just keep them out to be safe for the time period.
Will UPK and kindergarten students be given Chromebooks for at-home learning?
Kindergarten, yes, and UPK students, we actually are going to use iPads this year.
When will the school calendar be sent out?
So the school calendar is actually in process of being developed. So in the past, traditionally, we've sent it home. It's included a lot of relevant and pertinent information to families. However, we're actually going to create an actual calendar with student photos and then send out a separate mailer, including all that information in terms of free and reduced lunch applications, contact numbers, things of that nature. So that's in process, but it's likely not to be received until the middle of September.
If dismissal is at 3 o'clock, what time will the buses leave so that parents can pick up?
So the buses will leave right at 3 o'clock.
If your child is in the Thursday and Friday group, will there be information sent so they know what to do on the first 2 days of virtual school?
Yes.
What happens to the rest of the classroom if a student in that class tests positive?
So at that point in time, if a student tests positive, there's a few things that are going to occur. We will be working with the Department of Health. We will notify them of students that are symptomatic. Obviously, they're going to require a test to determine that. Your pediatrician, in all likelihood, would notify the Department of Health, which will identify the building that this student was located in. To further that, we will go ahead and send out a communication either via phone call or an email or letter, and we'll follow up to the point where people know which classroom, which building. However, to protect the child's integrity and privacy, we won't be identifying individual children, but it's likely that those students are going to have to quarantine, as well as the staff members that have been in contact with them. Further that, the student who comes up as positive, as soon as we have a positive case, we would start going into contact tracing protocol with the Department of Health.
For students who are doing virtual learning or on virtual learning days and have parents who work during the day, how will they be able to communicate with teachers?
So I talked a little bit about that. There will be teacher office hours that are posted throughout the week, so you'll know exactly when you can get a hold of teachers. Another thing you could do is email the teacher and they will get back to you when they are able.
For the hybrid model, how structured is the virtual day? Do they have to check in with their teachers? Do they do Zoom?
For hybrid?
Yeah, so the days that they're virtual.
So there will be a check-in process. It could look like some Zoom lessons, or it could be some work that is submitted through Google Classroom. So each teacher will be setting that up with their class.
If school supplies are available to hybrid students, will they also be available to virtual students?
Yes, they will. And we're already working together with transportation to see how the best way to get those supplies to those virtual students.
Do you have a few things?
Just a couple questions that came up previous to this meeting. One thing is, I had mentioned hotspots previously, and I forgot to say before that we are getting new hotspots. So we do have upgraded hotspots, and when we receive those, we're going to be asking families to come in and turn in the old ones. We can give you a new one. In addition to that, we did have a question that if there's multiple children going to a daycare, if they could get picked up and come on the same day for their hybrid days. And what I would recommend is, since we've divided it up by alphabet, if they occur on different alphabet days, that you let the building know, because we are trying to make accommodations for people who need their kids switched to a different day. We had an example of a older cousin who was going to watch a little one, and they needed to attend the same days. So we can make those adjustments as long as you let us know that you need them. We'd also recommend that you do fill out the transportation form that has the daycare information on there, just to make sure we know exactly where you need your child picked up and dropped off if you are using busing.
How will things like testing and evaluation be conducted and managed virtually? For example, things like reading levels.
So we are talking, I've been working with the reading team about this very thing. We have a couple things that we're thinking. Ames Web is one way that even virtual students can take on their Chromebooks. So we're looking at that to help evaluate where students are performing. And we also have the opportunity to do one-on-one testing with students using the interventionists.
If a student is sick and they're using the virtual model, are we still supposed to let the teachers know?
Yes, we have to take attendance for every student every day. So if a student is ill and that's why they can't participate, please send a note in or an email, just as you normally would, so that we can note that that was why the student didn't participate that day.
Is homeschooling and virtual learning the same thing?
Homeschooling and virtual learning are not the same thing. So virtual learning is something that we are able to provide as a district with our certified teachers. If you do choose to homeschool, that is something that as a family you would take on and have to submit specific paperwork to the district to let us know that you are taking on the teaching, the curriculum, the assessments for your child. It includes progress reports that you would need to send into the district as well. And so those are two very separate things.
Can I send in hand sanitizer for my own children to keep on hand and use throughout the day?
So this was something that we just got new guidance on today. It just changed today, and I don't know if you can help me, Mr. Pullen, if you were able to read the email yet or not. The SED just changed the rules on hand sanitizer today. I have not been able to read it in depth. So that's something that I'm going to put in the frequently asked questions because like I said, things are changing so quickly. I don't want to give the wrong answer because the answer was definitely different yesterday.
Well, and to further that, the district will be providing hand sanitizer to classrooms that do not have sinks. So hand hygiene would consist of washing your hands with soap and water for the classrooms that have sinks in them. And then to further that, we will have a bunch of hand sanitizer stations located throughout the building. But as Ms. Pagliai said, we will add that question and answer to the frequently asked questions list.
Can children bring things like tote bags, lunch pails, or drink bottles to school?
Yes, they can. And they each will have their own cubby area, just like in previous years, that will be just for their things.
When students are learning virtually and they go to daycare, if the daycare provider cannot provide help with instruction and the parents work all day, will they be able to do the work after 4:30, or will they be penalized for not being able to do work during the school day?
No, they would be able to do the work whenever makes sense and is right for their family.
If a child's family member, parent in their home tests positive, will the Department of Health notify the school, and will it be the expectation for that child to quarantine as well?
So yes, the likelihood of that occurring is yes. The Department of Health would contact us based on the number of people in the household. They would let us know that the child from North Rose-Wolcott Elementary was exposed or has possibly been exposed to COVID. And then we would follow certain protocols working through it with the Department of Health guidance.
Are we concerned about UPK funding at this time?
So ironically enough, UPK funding last week at this time was in jeopardy. However, we received very good news on Friday that our grant was restored. And we're moving forward with the same program that we had last year.
How will the bathrooms be sanitized throughout the day?
That's a piece where, again, you know, we haven't really got a concrete answer on that. But as we said earlier, if it's within the classroom, there will be teachers that will have access to cleaning materials and those high touch points of contact, door handles, doorknobs. Obviously toilet handles and toilet seats would be of consideration. And then for communal bathrooms, the custodians and maintenance staff would be going through and making sure that they're sanitized frequently.
Will drinking fountains be available?
No, we will not have drinking fountains available. However, students will be given water bottles. Each student will have a water bottle that will be theirs that can be filled up with water.
Are there any specific standards for masks, such as thickness, cloth, or surgical?
Nope, there are no requirements, just a face covering.
Are there going to be after-school programs or extracurriculars on the days the children are in school?
At this time, there are no extracurricular or after-school activities.
Is the curriculum going to be the same as normal? In other words, are you cutting out standards or topics because you do not think you'll make it through the entire curriculum because of the hybrid model?
No, we are not cutting out standards. We have had teachers go through a process called prioritizing standards, which means we have selected the standards that are most important that we will cover in the greatest depth, and then we will just touch upon the other support standards.
Are there ever special things that the hybrid students will be offered in school, such as field days, awards, student council, etc.? Will virtual students be offered the option to participate?
Yes, and the items mentioned really won't be happening at this time, but we would not, anything that we offer to our students in the hybrid model, we would also offer to our students in the virtual model.
Has there been any thought of doing outdoor distance opportunities for all of our students?
So I think we've talked a little bit about if the weather's nice, the teacher can definitely go outside, read a book to students outside, try to get them out and get them some fresh air as much as possible.
Yes.
Are we still going to do state testing this year?
We've not heard one way or the other, so we're not really sure. If the state decides yes, then we will. If the state decides no, then we won't. So that will be a state decision.
Is the district concerned about the lack of substitutes in the district since there's already a shortage prior to COVID?
So yes, the answer would be we are concerned about the lack of substitute teachers. However, through the Office of Instruction this year, many of our teachers have been putting together digital libraries and digital playlists so that on days when they may be out ill, that a support staff member might be able to go in and work with that particular class on going through a playlist or some activities that are in the digital library to compensate for the teacher not being present. But no different than any other year, we're always questioning the lack of substitute teachers.
Do we have to provide our own children's school supplies to reduce the risk of the spread of infection?
So, well, the district is going to provide every child with school supplies again this year. So what we're going to encourage is that students take care of their own possessions and materials. And as much as this pains us to say, we're going to ask that they not share. You know, we're pretty certain that so many of our kids have great attributes and are willing to share at any point in time. But this year, again, given the atypical circumstances, we're going to ask that they not share materials back and forth with one another. So at this time, we've had a chance to talk to you for about the last 40 minutes, the last 20 answering specific questions, giving you answers to the questions that have been asked. As I stated at the beginning of this session, you know, if your question wasn't answered tonight and you didn't get a chance to ask a question, or if something pops up this evening where you really want to reach out, please do so. Call the office tomorrow. As I had stated earlier, an administrator or a school counselor will get back in touch with you. And also, as I stated earlier, we just would love to say thank you for the outgoing and outpouring support over the last month. It's been a very difficult and trying time, but our community deserves the very best. And I'm thankful for the administrative staff and the number of hours they've put into making sure this plan is as seamless as possible. And again, taking your child's health and safety as the top priority, and then working through what has seemed to be an ever-changing process with daily information changing the trajectory for what we're able to offer. We're pretty confident in the plan that we have in place, We're pretty confident in the people we have in place, and we're looking forward to seeing you and your children on September 8th. So thank you again. Have a great evening. Enjoy the last few weeks of summer. Good night.
Oh my gosh. Can't breathe.
I'm disappointed that we didn't practice 3 days.
You weren't even close, people.
They may have, but we got a couple brothers on there.
Oh my God.